Hellfire and Brimstone. This is Mr. MegaManFan. You're watching Genesis Does, and this is Hellfire, developed by Toaplan, published in Japan by Taito, and in North America by the aptly named USA Games. Shooters from Toaplan seem to be a recurring theme on Genesis Does, this one being no exception. Our galaxy is being devoured by a dark force. Super Mech! Only you and the power of Hellfire can save us. But the blinding firepower alone can't save you. You'll need to utilize 4 weapons with strategy and great prowess. This is a 4 megabit ROM with 6 levels, multiple firing directions, and 16-bit graphics. And sadly, my copy has no instruction manual, so Ryan, don't say I didn't read the instructions because there weren't any in here to read. I can look them up online, of course, but I want to get to the meat of the matter. The self-destruction is not served on a platter. It's served up by Toaplan here in this Genesis Does. So let's get cracking. This time, I'm going to actually do this through emulation because my cat has declared total ownership of the recliner where my analog Mega SG sits. So we will play it this way and get a little cleaner video and audio as a result. If, however, in the future you want me to run it on real Genesis, or in this case, FPGA perfectly recreated Genesis hardware, I can certainly switch back. You know, it feels somewhat more authentic to me when I put the actual cartridge into an actual console, plug in an actual controller. You know, I'm sure this is 99.9% accurate, but when you're playing it on a console, that's more than 99.99. Anyway, as noted on the box, this is a shooter with multiple different directions you can shoot with multiple different weapons, but I did not ascertain that immediately with no instructions. I had a feeling I was missing something because these enemies have shots that fire at you from the right side after you destroy the power-up capsule on the left side, so I figured you had to be able to shoot behind your ship as well as in front. Which, one of the things I like to say about these shoot-em-ups from Toaplan is that they do create different forms of the classic shoot-em-up formula. You know, you're used to games where you go horizontally or vertically shooting at enemies in front of you and having to avoid getting sneak attack from behind, but you don't necessarily shoot in both directions. But as these games progressed into the 16-bit era, they got more creative with the ways that enemies would attack and the way that you would attack enemies. And once I figured out that the C button was my supercharged weapon, which you have a limited supply of, I concluded that the B button must be how you change to different weapon configurations. And indeed it is. Now I can shoot behind, but I can also shoot top and bottom simultaneously, which is good for taking out these tanks with capsules inside of them. And you also have a diagonal shooter as well, so you can shoot in 4 different directions, albeit with a little less power, but it definitely helps you to take out some of the hidden turrets that are coming up here in just a second. You see them firing in diagonal directions? Well, you can fire back at them in diagonal directions, so it is very helpful. Now, due partly to the popularity of the shoot-em-up genre, even more so to the reputation that Toaplan developed shooters have, and largely due to the fact that Sega Genesis collecting has been on the rise, this is not one of the easier games to acquire. Believe me when I say I'm grateful to own any kind of copy of it at all, even if the box is a little bit on the shoddy side and there's no manual on the inside. The cartridge alone would make it worth having because that loose cartridge goes for at least 30 bucks. Complete, this goes for 95, and new, God, I can't imagine finding this one new unopened. That would be about $170. And 30 is just the average according to price charting. It fluctuates greatly from that point, going as low as 20 and as high as 35. One time in 2019, it even went for 50 bucks. So It is not one of your cheaper Sega Genesis games. You will definitely want to try this with an emulator or an EverDrive or on your Genesis Mini if you have modded it. You can try it out in one of several ways before you make the investment, because it is a $30 investment even at the base level without a box or manual. That's what it's going to cost you. But is it fun? Oh, fuck yeah, it's a fun game. Even though I'm playing it on easy level, it is not easy at all. This boss fight is quite the beast to deal with, and you have to use every one of your weapon formations and circle around it and take out all of the targets, and it's a tank. It just keeps taking damage. It absorbs it like a sponge and keeps on giving more shots back to you in return. And, well, I didn't do very well on this first try, so while you're watching me fail spectacularly to beat this stage boss, I'm going to tell you a little more from the actual Wikipedia entry for this game, which I've saved until now. I've told you a whole bunch of other things, but not what it actually says about Hellfire itself. Ahem. Hellfire is a horizontally scrolling shooter arcade video game developed by Toaplan, published in Japan. The first horizontal shoot-'em-up title to be created by Toaplan. The game takes place in the year 2998, where a space matter known as Black Nebula, created by robot dictator Supermech, spreads and threatens to engulf human-controlled galaxies. Players assume control of Space Federation member Captain Lancer. He's our hero, taking control of the CNCS-1 space fighter craft in a surprise attack to overthrow the enemies with the fighter craft's titular weapon. Conceived by Tetsuya Uemura, I'm sorry if I butchered that name, Tetsuya Uemura, during his time at Toaplan, and developed in conjunction with Truxton, Hellfire served as an experiment to translate the company's shoot-'em-up gameplay to a horizontal format, but faced a problematic development cycle and went through various changes before its launch to the market. Initially launched for arcades, the game was then ported to Sega Genesis by NCS Corporation and published worldwide by Messiah, Seismic, Tectoy, and Sega between 1990 and 1992, while a PC Engine Super CD-ROM conversion by NEC Avenue was published exclusively in Japan on the 12th of April 1991. Each version of the title features various additions and changes compared with the original release. You are in fact seeing some of those features right now. You could switch from easy to hard, set the number of lives, set auto fire to on or off, and for this second attempt I definitely decided auto fire should be on. Now that I know how to switch to all the different weapons available to my ship, I thought the Hellfire might do better with auto fire, so that when I'm switching from one weapon to the other, I'm still shooting at whatever is in the vicinity. I thought I would make much more progress that way. Back to Wikipedia for just a second. Uemura is also credited with Tiger Heli, Flying Shark, and Twin Cobra. And he and his team struggled with the various aspects that proved to be frustrating for them, like terrain and collision detection, while developing Hellfire. Their previous experience with a vertical shoot-'em-up did not carry over to the horizontal format. Artist Koetsu Iwabuchi, who worked on Twin Cobra, stated, in a 1990 interview that he had no limitation when creating the designs. Uemura also requested the project have a puzzle element be integrated. Despite the difficulties in the creation process, the team was able to comply with his request. The Sega Genesis version was developed by most of the same staff from the original arcade release. That may actually be why this game demands such high prices, because it's almost a one-to-one recreation of the arcade, or at least you might think so based on that statement. Designer Yuko Tataka stated that working with the Genesis proved to be equally yeah. All of a sudden, I'm just tongue-tied today. Proved to be equally difficult due to restrictions imposed by the hardware. The PC Engine version had no development by Toaplan. It was done exclusively by NEC. The arcade release was 1985, and it was one of the first Toaplan games to prominently feature their name. And in 1989, an album containing music from this and other Toaplan games was published exclusively in Japan by Datum Polystar. That would be cool to own a copy of a soundtrack featuring a bunch of different Toaplan shooters. I'm sure that probably goes for quite the premium on the collector's market, though, between Japanese collectors and gaijins like me who would enjoy something like that just as much. So maybe, if we're lucky, somebody out there like I Am 8-Bit will do a reprint of that soundtrack, because I'm sure the original one goes for quite expensive prices. The Genesis scores for this game are all over the map. Game Rankings only gives it 59%. Computer and Video Games gives it 94 out of 100. CVG gives it 93. Joypad 95. Joystick 97. Mega Drive Fan gives it 18 out of 30. Sega Power gives it 5 out of 5 stars. Tilt gives it 14 out of 20. There's a wide variety of opinion about this game. You know, it goes anywhere from 50% to a little below that to almost perfection. So it all depends on how much you like shooters, I suppose. The legacy of the game. After the initial release of Hellfire to the arcade, Toaplan would go on to develop their second and last horizontal shoot-'em-up, Zero Wing, which was released the same year and shared the same engine. In more recent years, the rights to the game and many other IPs from Toaplan are now owned by Tetsujin, a company named after, obviously, Truxton's Japanese title. It was founded in 2017 by former Toaplan employee Masahiro Yuge, who is now affiliated with arcade manufacturer XA Arcadia. Now, will this game ever get a life beyond Sega Genesis and Genesis does? Well, I guess that's a matter for debate. A Toaplan collection of shooters seems like an ideal fit for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, etc., etc. We've certainly seen enough of these collections lately. We've seen a Darius collection, an R-Type collection, a Psycho shooter collection. Why wouldn't a Toaplan collection be appropriate for various modern systems? I would certainly enjoy it if they actually went that route. I would also enjoy it if I got good at this game, because I'm still playing on easy and getting my butt kicked quite frequently. So, again, this is a challenge. Not a bad challenge. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. I like the multiple weapons that you switch back and forth from. I like the fact that the power upgrades are automatically picked up as you pick up the capsules, and that you don't have to select them and activate them. So it stacks quite nicely. I feel like everything here is done really well. Even though they say that the development was troubled for this game, it doesn't feel that way to actually play it. It is a treat and a joy to enjoy playing this Toaplan shooter. So I would again recommend that you try this one out in the method of your choice. Emulator, SD card on your analog Mega if it's jailbroken, modified Genesis Mini, or if you can borrow the cart from somebody, even do it that way. Put a ROM on an EverDrive and sample it if you have to, because Lord knows, collecting for these games is so expensive anymore. Don't assume that in any way am I condoning piracy, but I'm definitely condoning try before you buy with the kind of money that it takes to get quality Sega Genesis games. I'm Mr. MegaManFan, this has been Genesis Does, and as always, thank you for watching.